Welcome back, everybody. This is Fantasy Football 201. I'm going to be doing a mock draft today. This video is pre-recorded from Thursday, so anything that happens in this game today, injury-wise, that could affect these the mock draft, just for your own awareness, is not going to be potentially factored in. But a lot of those guys that will probably play in the second half anyway are probably going to be backups that really won't have much of a role anyway. So just kind of keep that in mind. If anything does happen tonight that's out of the ordinary, it's not going to be included in this video. But yeah, so this video, it's going to be a mock draft, ESPN 12-team PPR mock draft. So going back to the 12-team format, I am picking fourth. And again, I apologize. I'm not going to have the projection of like what picks are actually going on, but I'm going to talk my way through it. Hopefully you don't have a problem with that. If you do, then sorry. But anyway, so I want to answer a fan question who answered my Washington football team trivia question about Ryan Fitzpatrick, and shout him out for his support and willingness to comment and kindly answer my trivia question. So his name was, I believe it was No Surprise, or no, Subscribe for No Videos. So, yeah, Subscribe for No Videos. Thank you for your comment. You did correctly guess the Rams was Ryan Fitzpatrick's first team. I appreciate your commenting and answering the question. So, thank you for checking out my channel. So, his question is, who should be my keeper this year for Dynasty Leagues? Jamal Williams in the 12th round, Damian Harris in the 10th, Steven Sims Jr. in the 16th. That's a very in-depth question. So I could tell you're a savvy fantasy owner because a lot of these players are typically not in typical redraft leagues, but they are. I'm assuming that you're in a very deep dynasty league to be considering between these players and who to keep. So first of all, my take on that question. Steven Sims, I definitely would not prioritize on that list. I think that he is more than likely going to be out of the league by the end of this season because I really don't think he has a very locked-in spot with Washington to even really be a guy to consider on your radar. It's a little more interesting between Jamal Williams and Damian Harris, and I can kind of see that going one of either ways, but I kind of lean a little more towards Damian Harris. And the reason being is that New England, even though I generally do not like their running backs, as I've talked about in their New England video, I think Damian Harris could have some pretty good opportunity with New England to where he could have some carries. Even though he's going to split some of his touches for touchdowns, he's still going to and like split with the other running backs for some touches. He's still going to have opportunities for touchdowns. He's still going to have opportunities in what's expected to be a pretty run-heavy offense with Cam Newton as long as he's still there. And then he has some value potentially if he does go to another team since he's still a relatively young player. Jamal Williams, he could be a better player, but you're betting on DeAndre Swift getting injured and then Jamal Williams stepping in. I think unless that happens, Jamal Williams' upside is relatively limited. And he's a little bit older of a running back who's been around a little bit longer than Damian Harris. So I would personally lean Harris if you had to pick between those players of who to keep. But if anything were to happen to DeAndre Swift, then you should definitely prioritize Jamal Williams. But thank you for your question. I do appreciate it. And for those of you watching this video, if you go back and comment on my trivia questions for the all the team videos I made, I've only really had like 4 or 5 people that have participated in that so far. So if you just go back, there's a whole slew of teams that you can get your fantasy football questions answered for. So I'm just putting that out there. That offer is still on the table, but has not been taken advantage of. So yeah, we still got, I believe, about 2 minutes until this draft. So I guess just to kind of give you a heads up of what I'm planning to do on this channel for fantasy football. So what I want to do is this is the draft season where you're picking all your players. So what I'm going to be doing over the next couple weeks is breaking down my strategies of how I manage each position. So on Monday or Tuesday next week, my plan is to talk about kickers and how kickers are actually a very good cheat code that you can use depending on the strategy that you use for kickers, and talk about how they're basically the lowest priority on your roster, but they can give you a very significant advantage in terms of waiver wires if you treat them as such. So I will get into that. I'm also going to talk about just the prioritizing of positions and who to take at which rounds. But in general, my strategy that I'm going to go through in this draft too is that you really should only have one quarterback, one tight end, one defense, and one kicker on your roster. And then the rest of your lineup should be filled with running backs and wide receivers. There's a few exceptions to that rule. For instance, if somebody slips really far and he just happens to be available. But in general, I would, especially with defense and kicker, you only need one. And there's people that'll be taking two defenses because they want to gain one matchup or the other. But it's just better off to leave one of them on waivers. And then if your defense is doing bad, then chances are you probably don't really need them that much. And you could pick up somebody on waivers who can help you more. So that's what I'm going to be doing over the next couple of weeks. And it's going to also include mock drafts on the weekends. So we can kind of give you a rundown of who I'm going to take in general at each position, depending on how players' stock and all that changes throughout the regular season or throughout the preseason. Then we'll get into the regular season, go from there, and yeah, should be pretty fun. So check out the channel if you're interested in all that kind of stuff, and we're getting ready to load this mock draft up in a sec. But also, if you're interested, check out my channel for other stuff too. I make quite a wide variety of content. I talk about fantasy football. I'm kind of focusing on that quite a bit since we're getting ready to start the season. But I also react to some songs too. I just did a Porcupine Tree reaction. I also cover some songs on a guitar as well. So if you like some songs, I do some of that. You can check out my channel for that too. I also play songs like church songs on Sundays. So if you like that kind of stuff as well, you can check that out too. I have quite a wide variety of content, so consider like, commenting, or subscribing if you're interested. So I am picking fourth in this draft, and the players that are listed in order for me on the draft board are Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Saquon Barkley, Travis Kelce, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, all in the top 6. So it's a little interesting to me why they have Travis Kelce ahead of Alvin Kamara. I know there's quite a bit of uncertainty of the drop-off the Saints could have on offense with Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill instead of Drew Brees being there. But I personally would still highly prioritize Kamara. I think of those players, I would probably take Kamara number 3 overall behind McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, and then go Kamara. And then after that, I would probably be close consideration between Saquon and Derrick Henry. And then I'd probably start looking in the Travis Kelce direction. Because Zeke Elliott and Jonathan Taylor, who are the number 7 and 8 running backs, their upside, I'm a little lower on them than some of these other running backs. Zeke Elliott, because he's shown signs of slowing down, and he's got Tony Pollard there in the backfield. And then Jonathan Taylor, if Carson Wentz is going to miss 12 weeks, as they said that he could potentially miss, then teams are just going to stack the box on Jonathan Taylor, force Jacob Eason or Brent Huntley or whoever they bring in to throw the ball and really test the passing game of the Colts. So I think Jonathan Taylor, especially with the Wentz injury, is going to be more of a risky play, especially if you're going to consider taking him in the first round. Much rather take a guy like Devontae Adams or Tyreek Hill or even Austin Eckler, who's the next up at number 11, over Jonathan Taylor personally. So I got 15 seconds, and then I will, and then the first person will be up. So we'll see what he does here. So yeah. Okay, so draft board is open now. He's probably going to take Christian McCaffrey. I really don't think he's going to do anything else. And he does take McCaffrey. That's really not much of a surprise there. I think that McCaffrey, there's arguments to be made for Derrick Henry in standard leagues, but I think in PPR you pretty much have to go Christian McCaffrey. This next guy is also kind of taking his time. And he is, he's taking the full time on this thing. I was wondering at first if this was like a mock draft or a real draft because the time was a little longer. But it says mock draft. I guess these people are just like, they're just like really like thinking about it. And he takes Dalvin Cook. So all that time that he spent like questioning what pick to take, and then he just took the guy that he should have taken anyway. It's just, I don't know. This is going to be one of those slow ones probably, but we'll have to just bear through it, I guess. He took Derrick Henry. So after Dalvin Cook, it was Derrick Henry went third. I don't hate that, but I also would have rather had Kamara. So now I have Kamara available to me, and that's who I'm going to take. Alvin Kamara goes to me as my RB1. So my next priority that I'm going to take, and I'm not really drafting for quite a while, but I'm going to be trying to get one of these receivers. If Najee Harris is still available, I would definitely consider taking him at what would be about pick 21. But I would much rather take a guy like Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins if he falls, DK Metcalf, something along those lines, personally. Justin Jefferson, I think, could be some decent value here as well. A.J. Brown, maybe too, depending on how you feel about how he's going to do with Julio Jones there as well. And then I just don't understand, like, some of these Dallas, like, there's some people that are just always hyping Dallas all the time. Like, Zeke Elliott should not be drafted over Saquon, in my opinion. And then Austin Eckler went next. That was also very surprising. Saquon Barkley went after that. So Saquon, a lot of people are very concerned about his injuries. Devontae Adams went next. Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and then Aaron Jones. I think that was a good pickup there to get Aaron Jones into the first round. I do like that move. And Jonathan Taylor's still on the board at pick number 12. I think people are kind of, like I said, a little concerned about what that Colts offense is going to look like if Wentz is out for a while. But he did get taken there, so he closes out the end of the first round. So I'm really hoping I could get somebody like Calvin Ridley. That's the one that I would want the most out of these options that are available to me, but it's not 100% confident he's going to still be available. So if he's not available, then the one I would take next would be, and I'm assuming that Hopkins is going to be gone by this point, but the one I would take after Calvin Ridley would be DK Metcalf, and then I would go Justin Jefferson, and then I would go A.J. Brown. And then I think you have some interesting options after that. You could consider Terry McLaurin, too. Could be there. You could also go running back if you wanted to and try to get DeAndre Swift, but I'm personally not as high on guys like Swift and Sanders, who are both right next to each other, because of their offenses. Then it was Stephon Diggs. DeAndre Hopkins, sure enough, went next. Nick Chubb went, and then Antonio Gibson went. And I talked about Antonio Gibson in my Washington video, but a little cautious about how he'll do. Oh, man, somebody took Calvin Ridley. Oh, man. Well, I still have some other guys available that I would be interested in. So there's three people ahead of me. I could take Joe Mixon. I could take Najee Harris. I could take Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Those are all decent running back options. DK Metcalf and Justin Jefferson are still there. So I usually would try to get a receiver here if I can, because I think although it's important to lock up great running backs, if you have potentially wide receiver ones, then I think that that's a little better than trying to get multiple running backs, especially since they get hurt. Because receivers, it's a little more difficult to predict receiver outcomes for you. Oh, man, they took Justin Jefferson and DK Metcalf. So I could choose A.J. Brown, Terry McLaurin. Those are both guys that I like more in the third round range, though, is the problem. There's quite a bit of running backs still here. So what do I do? I think what I might just do is if they don't take Najee Harris, I might just take him here. They did take Terry McLaurin, who was my next receiver. So I could reach for A.J. Brown or Keenan Allen, which I think are better at third-round value, or I can get one of these better running backs who fell a little bit. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take Najee Harris, given his potential on the Steelers. Joe Mixon, I could go as well. He's 2 spots higher on the draft board than Harris, but I just don't know about that Bengals offense. And then Clyde Edwards-Helaire with the Chiefs. He's definitely got opportunity, but I think it's more so going to be a passing offense. Steelers, I think, could rely heavily on the run. I'm going with Najee Harris. So Alvin Kamara in the first round, Najee Harris in the second round, and then for this third round pick, I'm definitely going to try to get a receiver. A.J. Brown or Keenan Allen, if they're still available, I think they might be at this position, so I would definitely consider taking one of them. Allen Robinson is good value too. Amari Cooper is not good value. CeeDee Lamb is. And then you start getting into the tight ends, Darren Waller and George Kittle. So Joe Mixon went next. These guys are really taking their time. It's kind of just excruciating. But yeah, hope you like this video. And if you haven't already checked out my channel or commented, or subscribed, do so. And this dude is the one who's taken every single time on his pick. He takes A.J. Brown next. Clyde Edwards-Helaire went. So I'm probably going to be able to get one of these receivers that I like. I'm hoping it'll be Keenan Allen, but if not, I would not really have a problem with Allen Robinson or CeeDee Lamb either. I'm not as high on Mike Evans because I think Tampa Bay is going to split their touches around. Robert Woods is also potentially interesting, but I feel like the decline is coming soon for somebody like him. Myles Gaskin. Wow. Myles Gaskin over DeAndre Swift and Miles Sanders. That's interesting. But I actually kind of think that's pretty savvy because you're betting on the offense being more productive in Miami than a place like Detroit, which is probably going to have a very inept offense. So it's a pretty good move right there. And I mean, when you're picking back-to-back like that, I'm going to try to see if I can do a draft where I'm picking either 1st or 12th to kind of show you how to do the back-to-back strategy because it changes how you reach for players because you have to go so long between picks. But yeah, we'll save that for a future week. David Montgomery went next. Would I consider taking DeAndre Swift or Miles Sanders if they're still available? And I probably would not do that since I already have running backs, but I'm really hoping this will be Keenan Allen. This one guy is taking his time all the way down to 15 seconds. Jeez. Why do you have to spend so long thinking about these picks if it's a mock? It's just crazy. He takes Miles Sanders. So Keenan Allen is available. I'm taking Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen is my wide receiver 1. Alvin Kamara, my RB1. He was drafted in the first round. And then Najee Harris was my second round pick, who's my RB2 right now. So I'm pretty happy about this collection so far. And then I'm really, at this point, I've got till pick 45. So more than likely, both Darren Waller and George Kittle are going to be gone. 45 around that range is Tyler Lockett, is okay value. Cooper Kupp, same thing, pretty good value there. That's probably the one I would want to try to take if he's still around that range. Kenny Golladay is another player that I could like potentially for New York. Then you have a couple of receivers with potential like Jamar Chase, Cortland Sutton, T. Higgins, depending on how you feel about the 2 Bengals receivers. Brandin Ayuk. People have various opinions on him. I think he's being a little bit overdrafted currently. So as we went through this, it was J.K. Dobbins after Keenan Allen. Josh Jacobs went next, and then it was DeAndre Swift, Darren Waller, Chris Carson, and CeeDee Lamb. So, yeah, there's about 9 picks till I go, and George Kittle went off the board, so the 2 tight ends are gone. I kind of expected them to be. And what's going to be interesting is by the time it gets to me, if Patrick Mahomes will still be available, because he is in that position now where he's probably going to start getting taken around here. And a lot of these drafts that I've done so far, the owners have been savvy enough to not take him in the first round, which are some leagues I've seen people do that because they just don't understand fantasy football. uh, draft positions and how it costs you other players, but I'll get into that in a little bit. By the way, like while I have some time, like I was in a league once where like this really irritated me, but so we did our draft and we already picked our players. And there were some people that picked quarterbacks really high, and I was like, why are you guys doing that? But then they went back in before week 1 and after the draft, and they changed the rules settings so that quarterbacks' points are inflated. They made, I think it was like every like 2 or 3 yards equal a point. So the quarterbacks would put up like 70 to 80 point games. But it's just like, that's just totally not cool. You don't change the rules after you've drafted. I was just blown away by that. But that really irritated me a few years ago, but that was, I don't know. That's the kind of stuff that you don't do in fantasy football, in my opinion. So after it was George Kittle, Amari Cooper went, Allen Robinson did, and then Patrick Mahomes. I expected him to go around here. He went next. Robert Woods, Mike Evans, Julio Jones, and Darrell Henderson. And then now it's Josh Allen who went next, and then Deontay Johnson. That's interesting to me. So, a couple of interesting options here that I have available. Adam Thielen fell. So that's surprising to me. I would very much consider taking him. DJ Moore is also very interesting to me in Carolina. But I'm going to go with Cooper Kupp because I think Cooper Kupp has a lot of opportunity with Matt Stafford. And I think especially with Cam Akers' injury, they're going to rely more on passing the ball. Darrell Henderson, to me, is not really a guy that you can throw in every down. I'm going to take Cooper Kupp and get him on my team. And then if one of these other receivers are still available, I'm probably going to take them around the range of pick 52. There's also Mark Andrews around here as well, who's also would be pretty good value. And then I would also begin to start looking at some quarterbacks that I might like too. Lamar Jackson is the quarterback that I would prefer to take if he's available. But he does not go until his draft board position is not until pick 78. So theoretically, he could still be available by the time he comes to me. If he's not available, I'm going to go with Justin Herbert because I'm going to try to go with that Keenan Allen, Justin Herbert stack. But we'll see what happens with these quarterbacks as we progress through this. Michael Thomas is still available too, and we'll check out Michael Thomas. He is expected to miss the first few games because of his injury and then surgery that he had, which was kind of a point of debate. But if you've got a good roster where you can afford to wait on him, he would actually be very good value to pick up too. So he's somebody that I would very strongly consider taking with this next pick. Wow, man, Justin Herbert already went off the board? Number 3 quarterback? I don't know about that. He went before Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson. Wow. They must be really high on Justin Herbert's potential. I know that he played well last year, but how is he going to play with fans? And then Travis Etienne went 5th round. That's another very surprising pick to me. But I guess that could be another good pick too. But Justin Herbert, number 3 quarterback, that's crazy. Yeah, a couple of so I probably would want to try to take Thomas here if I can. I'm really interested to see where he's going to fall on the board. But I think that of all these guys that are left, Michael Thomas has the most potential to really kind of go off. The other thing I could do too is I could go Mark Andrews here at tight end and try to see if I can get a Lamar Jackson stack later on with him. Personally, not going to try to do that. I'm going to go with Thomas because he is going to be a very good sneaky option to have on your team that you can, once he starts playing, he's going to be a huge focal point of this team. So we continue to roll through this. And then it was Tyler Lockett that went next. Yeah, they got the there's a lot of stuff going on. You got NFL, you got Olympics. Right now they're doing the 1500. Yeah, these guys are, their first like 400 was in 56 seconds. That's crazy. So Jamar Chase went next, and it was Kenny Golladay. I've got quite a while until I go. It's going to be right around pick number 69. So what my goal is now is to try to see if I can get a good quarterback. I've got some good wide receivers on my team now that I could definitely plug into my wide receiver 1 and 2 position comfortably. And then I have some solid running back 1 and 2 options too. So now my focus is going to be finding a good quarterback and tight end without reaching for them, and then getting good bench depth at running back and wide receiver. Preferably more running backs, but you do not need to be drafting multiple quarterbacks onto my team. That is not the formula for success. And TJ Hawkinson went in the 5th round. That might be a little bit of a reach, but I can understand why they would do something like that, because he's, for just the limited amount of options that Detroit has, TJ Hawkinson might be a breakout tight end this year. And yeah, this is a very long and drawn out mock draft. But yeah. Cortland Sutton still available too. T. Higgins. Mark Andrews was available, but he just got taken. Mike Davis went right before him. You also have Chase Edmonds, who's another running back that I like around this range as well, who's still available. But if Kyler Murray is still available for some reason to me at pick 69, that's, I think, a definite pickup right there that you try to go for. Or Lamar Jackson, if both of them are still available here. Kyler Murray did get taken. Juju went next. They're probably going to take Lamar Jackson next. He is the next quarterback up, and then it's Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson on the board too. So it gets a little dicey in terms of who you take after that. And they did sure enough take Lamar Jackson. So I have to pivot a little bit. Do I go Chase Edmonds? Do I go Kyle Pitts? I could also go Aaron Rodgers. Or I could really throw things for a loop and take Logan Thomas here, but I'm generally not going to do things like that. Chase Edmonds, I think, will probably be the pick if he's still available. And he just got taken too. Dang. These guys are pretty savvy managers. Kyle Pitts went next. So I could go Odell. I've already got some other wide receivers of note that have some that are very strong. I could also take other running backs that are still available. Javonte Williams, James Robinson, Damian Harris, Raheem Mostert. Javonte Williams, I think, is going to have some mild opportunity. I think that he might be a good pickup here, but you're really betting on a lot if he doesn't, if like Melvin Gordon is able to play or not. But I'm going to take Williams just because getting to the point where I do need some running back depth at this point. And there were some good receivers, but right now I have 3 good receivers that I'm comfortable with. Probably see if I can get more of a sneakier target later on and try to build some running back depth in the meantime. So yeah, and then Odell went right after that. Aaron Rodgers went next. So I could try to go Russell Wilson here. I could also wait a little bit and try to take somebody like Trevor Lawrence or Jalen Hurts, which I think would also be pretty good value too. Deebo Samuel went next. I think people are sleeping on him. That was a pretty good pickup. Raheem Mostert, Laviska Shenault. Yeah, so it's coming to me. So the ones that are here on the board at this point: Robbie Anderson, Will Fuller, Brandin Cooks, DJ Chark, Jerry Jeudy, Tyler Boyd, and then Curtis Samuel, but I'm really not that interested in him. Or I could, so that's receivers. I could go James Robinson at running back, but I don't really know what his upside is going to be with ETN there. Russell Wilson I could take. That would not be bad value either. Probably will try to wait on Russell Wilson a little bit. Well, he actually just went. So my auto draft pick is Logan Thomas. That's not going to happen. So I think what I'm going to do here is, and this is kind of illustrating a point to a degree, but I'm going to take Brandin Cooks. And the reason why I'm doing this is because it shows that the Texans, their only receivers that have significant experience on their roster right now are Brandin Cooks and Kiki Kuti. And Brandin Cooks by far has more experience. He's definitely more injury prone, but he's going to get a lot of opportunity on this Texans team, especially since they literally do not have very many other receiving options. So I'm going to take Brandin Cooks as somebody that could have some consistent volume. He's probably not going to ideally be a guy that I would start. I would probably try to see if I could flip him if he starts off with some good games. But he does present some interesting value for me while he is available there. So my goal is going to be to get the quarterback, get a tight end, and then continue to build depth. Waiting a little bit longer in this draft for quarterbacks and tight ends because I think generally quarterbacks have been reached for a little bit here in this draft. I don't really feel comfortable taking Tom Brady in the 7th round, nonetheless really at all, because he doesn't have mobility. So I'm going to probably wait a little bit and try to see if I can get somebody like Trevor Lawrence later on. And then for tight end, we take a look at the ones that are left. You've got some pretty good options here. Logan Thomas is the next rated one up, but I've kind of talked about him in the last video. I'm not super high on him. Noah Fant would have some interesting upside too, but I probably will not do that since I already have Javonte Williams. Then you have some other interesting ones as well, like Hunter Henry. I think will get a lot of value. Jonnu Smith potentially with New England too. I like Hunter Henry a little bit more than him. Irv Smith out of Minnesota could have some solid value. Evan Ingram is available later. He could be interesting for New York. So yeah, you have quite a bit of options here later on in the draft. So if you're patient, you could actually still get a pretty good tight end or a pretty good quarterback. You don't necessarily have to reach right away for them. After Brandin Cooks went, it was Robbie Anderson, Michael Gallup, Logan Thomas, Melvin Gordon, Will Fuller, Damian Harris, and DJ Chark. Will Fuller would have been a solid pick for me as well. I didn't go that direction personally, but he's definitely somebody that you can certainly consider too. Then it was James Robinson. So yeah, we have more picks coming. Jerry Jeudy, Tyler Boyd. So a couple picks left to me. And of the players left here, I will probably try to see if I can get a good tight end at this position or a quarterback. And I think for quarterback, it might not be a bad idea to try to just get the Trevor Lawrence reach in. You've also got some other receiver. There's a lot of receivers here that have varying degrees of interest or potential how they would do. Cole Beasley, I think, could have some good value, but I think that there's a lot of questions if he'll play because he's kind of not very happy about the vaccine mandates going around the league. And they just took Ryan Tannehill. So that kind of throws a wrench into things to a degree. I could go Dallas Goedert. I'm not really very high on him. Devontae Smith got injured. Marquise Brown, inconsistent. So not really a lot of great receiver options here. So what I'm going to do here is get some more running back depth on my team, and I'm going to go with Zach Moss. I think Zach Moss could have some good potential value in Buffalo. I'm going to add some more depth on my team and get Zach Moss as a running back that I can kind of rely on. And then if anything were to happen to Devin Singletary where it just becomes even more of his backfield, he could step up more. Zach Moss played pretty well last year, but he was a little bit limited by injuries to a degree. So yeah, then it was two Eagles players, Dallas Goedert and Devonta Smith. Ronald Jones went next. That was another player I was strongly considering as well. It's coming up to me. And what I'm going to do here is I'm probably going to try to either go with Jalen Hurts or Trevor Lawrence, because I will have to wait quite a bit if I don't get them. I could also go tight end. I think I'm going to try to wait a little bit on that personally, because there's other good players too, like Tyler Higbee, I think could have a very good season, who's also probably going to be available later on. The running backs available around this range, I'm not particularly high on taking here. I think one that would be very interesting, though, is Michael Carter. I might actually do that. I think he's got some potential in New York. I know that New York is really bad. It's really hard to kind of tell what their team will look like. Yeah, not sure if I want to do that. Now let's take him. I think he's got some good handcuff options here. And then the next pick, what I'm going to be trying to do is get some good handcuff, some good quarterback tight end. I've waited kind of towards the end for quarterback tight end in this mock to kind of illustrate the fact that you can wait on these things and still get some pretty good value later on in quarterback and tight end. Because I think ultimately it's very important that you prioritize building some depth at running back, wide receiver, etc. That could be beneficial for you. Another good receiver, by the way, while we've got some time while these people are going slow, is Russell Gage. He's going to be available very late in drafts, and he's going to have quite a bit of opportunity with Atlanta, especially since Atlanta is going to be a very pass-heavy team, and they lost Julio Jones. Next, after Michael Carter, was J.D. McKissic. The Steelers' defense, which is a reach. You should not be taking any defense in the 9th round. Joe Burrow went next. Antonio Brown, Jalen Waddle. So the players left on the board: Henry Ruggs, but he just got taken. Corey Davis, Jalen Reagor, Cole Beasley, Mike Williams, Leonard Fournette, Kenyon Drake, Robert Tonyan, and then a couple of tight ends: A.J. Dillon, Jalen Hurts. Cole Beasley went next, and then a few other players that were taken ahead of him were Marvin Jones and Henry Ruggs. So, just some things to kind of keep in mind for you there. And yeah, it's interesting because right now, one of the things that's standing out to me is that Corey Davis is slipped quite a bit. Jalen Reagor slipped quite a bit. So what it's telling me is that some of those guys, I think people are a little bit concerned about the potential upside, so they're taking them a little bit later relatively than their draft position. A.J. Dillon went off the board. That's a pretty good pickup. Matt Stafford, Jalen Reagor, Mike Williams, Leonard Fournette went next. So I've got 2 picks, and then I'm probably going to try to see if I can knock out one of these tight ends. I really like Hunter Henry. If I could take him, that would be awesome. Or Jalen Hurts is here too. That's not a bad option for me either. Probably go Hurts first because the quarterback's being a little limited. I did Hurts in an earlier one. I'm going to go Trevor Lawrence if I can, potentially at a little bit later of a pick. See what this guy's kind of taking his time. But Jalen Hurts I really like too for the season because he's going to have quite a bit of rushing value as well. Elijah Moore went next. That was interesting. So I could go Jalen Hurts or I could go Hunter Henry. And I think because of the rushing value, I'm going to go Jalen Hurts as my quarterback, get that locked up. And then there's a lot of tight ends that are going to be available here that I like. If they're still like Hunter Henry, Irv Smith, or Evan Ingram, those are all decent options that if they're still available, I would definitely consider taking one of them. I might wait as well if somebody like Trey Sermon is still on the board because I think he's got some good handcuff value as well. And then you can try to get Tyler Higbee later on. These are all different things you can try to do to continue to build the running back depth on your team. Nyheim Hines is also a decent player as well as a PPR guy. He could have a bigger role, especially if they're going to young quarterbacks that really don't know how to throw the ball past the line of scrimmage. Jonnu Smith went, Robert Tonyan went, and Irv Smith went. So Hunter Henry's here. I would be very happy. Michael Pittman is here in this range as well as somebody that's also intriguing. Mike Gesicki went off the board as well as Darnell Mooney, who's got some sleeper potential with Chicago. Let's see what this guy does in the draft. Man, this draft is going slow. They took T.Y. Hilton. All that time like commiserating on your pick, and then you take a receiver with limited to no upside. That just makes no sense to me. So Hunter Henry's still available. I'm taking him. I think Hunter Henry's got a lot of potential with New England, just because like Cam Newton is very reliant upon tight ends. Hunter Henry has got a ton of potential. The New England Patriots system loves tight ends. It's literally a match made in heaven having Hunter Henry go to New England, because he's got a ton of potential, but just never really was able to realize in Los Angeles / San Diego, because of I think a lot of it has had to do with quarterback play. And then last year kind of had some injuries as well that didn't help. Nyheim Hines went off the board. Devontae Parker, Michael Pittman, Eric Ebron, Evan Ingram. So we're getting into more of these handcuff options and running back PPR third down options that probably aren't going to have a lot of potential. So now you're trying to look at guys that you're really trying to strategize for success as either handcuff or running backs that are currently backups but in shaky situations in which they might overtake the starting role. Jacoby Myers for New England is number 1 on the board, but he doesn't really have any interest to me at all. And then Nelson Aguilar is there too. Russell Gage went off the board. Oh, dang. See, savvy people are paying attention to guys like Russell Gage, because he is somebody to definitely keep an eye out for as a late receiver. Other players that are still on the board, receiver-wise, that are interesting while we're on that topic: Rashad Bateman, Traquan Smith, both young up-and-coming receivers that are going to have opportunities on that team. Randall Cobb could theoretically get some opportunities with Green Bay, but he's getting a little older. And it's a good thing I took Hunter Henry, because Tyler Higbee just went off the board. So really kind of one of the later tight ends that you can still get for good value. So I'm up now, and they're telling me to take Tariq Cohen. I would prefer not to do that. So I'm going to probably be looking at running back, and I could go Alexander Mattison or Tony Pollard are both pretty good options as running back handcuffs. I think I'm going to go with Pollard because Zeke Elliott, we don't really know what kind of shape he's in or if he's going to even be healthy. He's kind of shown signs of declining based on previous play. So I'm going to go with Tony Pollard here. I think he could be not only a good handcuff, but he could have some good games where he's successful in between, just because his starter is potentially shows signs of declining. And we go to the classic mistake that I tell people in almost every single video that I make not to do, and they took Harrison Butker in the 12th round. I can't wait to talk about my kicker strategy, because it just shows you that literally it does not make any sense to take a kicker anywhere other than the last round, or with exceptions, the second to last round. Because they're just so unpredictable. You're sacrificing players that could be very beneficial to you, like Giovani Benard, who is still available here as a pretty good PPR option for Tampa Bay. I'm probably going to take him here. But basically, it just doesn't make any sense why you would take a kicker, especially rounds like this. So I'm going to take Giovani Benard here, because I think that at least for the time being, it could be a pretty good PPR player, and he's going to have some opportunities. If somebody that is going pretty late in drafts, that could be pretty valuable to you. A couple guys starting to go off the board. So after Harrison Butker, Cole Kmet, interesting pickup at tight end. It just shows that like tight ends, like you're really like kind of having to reach pretty low at early in drafts potentially if you're reaching for them. Gus Edwards went next. Alexander Mattison, I took Giovani Benard, and then it was Jared Cook, Tevin Coleman, Rob Gronkowski, Austin Hooper, and then Tua. So These are, for the most part, these are very good fantasy managers because they took guys that have potential like Cole Kmet or Tyler Higbee with that opportunity over Gronk, who is generally somebody who you should be trying to avoid because he's going to generally be overdrafted based on his position, gives you a lot of hype, but is not really going to give you very much consistency at all, especially at this stage in his career. Philip Lindsay went next. He's a decent, interesting candidate in Houston now. Matt Ryan. Haven't really seen him in a lot of drafts so far, but he's really not a bad option to take at quarterback late. Ben Roethlisberger, Darrell Williams, Darrington Evans, Adam Troutman, tight end for New Orleans. That's interesting. Ravens D, 49ers D. Traquan Smith went next. Justin Tucker, Rashad Bateman. So I've got a couple running backs. I could also go wide receiver too. So I could go other guys that I like that are potentially available. And then we got some running backs here too. There's not a lot of running backs that I really like a lot. I'm going to take Salvon Ahmed because I think that he's got some potential to step up in the Dolphins backfield if anything were to happen to Myles Gaskin, or if he just doesn't show the consistency that we expect. Salvon Ahmed had some pretty productive games last year. And I think that might be a position I may eventually cut later on. But I do have 8 running backs. So definitely, I've got 8 running backs right now. It gives me a good time to kind of gauge the players. I've got 4 good receivers on my team, so I'm relatively confident in just kind of rotating between them. And that's one of the things that you could do is that, with receivers, especially when you get ones that are consistent and you can just plug them in every week, it really gives you a lot of potential value there. Then people started taking kickers and defenses because they're auto-drafting, even though they're probably taking them too high. And I'm auto-drafting now, and I have to pick between kickers and defenses. Broncos available, don't really like them. Patriots, I think they could be a good defense. Browns, Colts, they're there as well. I'm not as high on the Colts right now, though, because of the situation with their quarterback play. I'm going to go New England. I think they'll be a better defense this year. I like them. And then I'm going to try to get a kicker in this last round. There's a lot of... I'm going to be going towards the end of the 4th. So Jason Myers still available going into this, good kicker option. Jason Sanders, tied for the number 1 kicker last year, still available in the last round. Matt Gay, good opportunity with Los Angeles. Tyler Bass, another very good kicker, still available. Matt Prater could have some opportunity in Arizona. So Tyler Bass was the one I was targeting, but he sure enough got taken. So I'm picking between different kickers here with the 4th to last pick, and I'm just going to show you that there's a lot of different options. You have Matt Prater in Arizona. You have Daniel Carlson, a top 5 kicker from last year. Will Lutz, another kicker who's got opportunity with New Orleans. I'm going to go with Ryan Succop because I think Tampa Bay is going to get a lot of field goals potentially. And a lot of opportunities because of the offense. So it just goes to show you that you could get kickers that are going to perform very well in the last round. And if you get a guy that does bad, it doesn't cost you anything because you took him as their last pick. So if you want to hear more about this, check out my kicker video. I will go into this in more depth. But my team, just so you're aware, quarterback Jalen Hurts, running back Alvin Kamara, that was my first overall pick. Then I took Najee Harris. Then I took Keenan Allen. Cooper Kupp as my other 2 receivers. Hunter Henry, Michael Thomas, Patriots defense, Ryan Succop, Javonte Williams, I almost said Jamal Williams, Brandin Cooks, Zach Moss, Michael Carter, Tony Pollard, Giovani Benard, Salvon Ahmed. More than likely what I would probably do is try to see if I can get a more consistent receiver for Salvon Ahmed, who might be available on waivers. But overall, I'm pretty happy with this team, and I think they have pretty good value. And it goes to show you how it doesn't hurt to have a lot of running backs. They are very good pieces to hold on to, especially as the depth wanes throughout the season. So that's all I got for this video. If you stuck around for the whole thing, thank you. It was very long because these managers took forever to draft. But anyway, so I do appreciate those of you who did watch, and if you're interested, please continue to check out my channel for more content. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.